You know, whenever the White House is asked, at least in the press briefings, about the Russia investigation and anything, I mean, any of the threads, they pretty quickly deflect to, well, why aren't you investigating Hillary Clinton? And this just happened. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was just asked a question, and you can just see this plain as day. So let me play this for you and get your response.
You guys are focused on a meeting that Don Jr. had no consequence when the Democrats actually colluded with a foreign government like Ukraine. If you want to talk further about a relationship with Russia, look no further than the Clintons, as we've said time and time again. Bill Clinton was paid $500,000 to give a speech to a Russian bank and was personally thanked by Putin for it. Hillary Clinton allowed 1/5 of America's uranium to reserve to be sold to a Russian firm whose investors were Clinton Foundation donors, and the Clinton campaign chairman's brother lobbied against sanctions on Russia's largest bank and failed to report it. If you guys want to talk about having relations, which you seem obsessed with doing, look no further than there.
Mr. Podesta, I don't know if you could see on your screen, but she's reading from notes. In other words, those are talking points that she's delivering.
So
go ahead.
You know, this is what they do. They try to divert attention. Those stories that she went through have been knocked down by the mainstream media. But I think just like the Sethridge story at Fox, what they like to try to do is throw dust someplace else so that they at least give the alt-right media and Fox News something to talk about. When what we really ought to be talking about is that meeting with Don Trump Jr. And the fact that the president dictated, according to some sources, at least participated in a statement that was grossly misleading. Think about that. This is Trump family values. The kids come to the president and say, you know, Dad, it's time to come clean. We better talk about what happened at this meeting. And what's the dad's response? No, that might hurt me. Put out a grossly misleading statement, which fell apart within a couple of days.
But what do you think the upshot of that is?
They have a lot to answer for.
Yeah, but what do you think,
well,
in
look,
terms of now knowing that the
why
president is involved, do you think that somebody has been exposed to more legal jeopardy as a result of that?
Yeah, I think that, you know, you heard that from the former prosecutor in the Valerie Plame case. I think they all got together. The special prosecutor, special prosecutor, Mr. Mueller, is certainly going to be suspicious about that. And I think Adam Schiff, the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, I think put his finger on this. They may not have evidence of collusion yet, but they sure have evidence, and this meeting is evidence of intent to collude. Don Jr.'s statement that, you know, this is great, and influencing the timing of when they might use the information. Remember, this all goes back, they like to say there's no crime. This all goes back to crimes that were committed. The hacking of the DNC, the hacking of my emails, the hacking of other Clinton campaign staff emails. Those are crimes committed by the Russians. And now we know that at a minimum, they were encouraging them to use the fruits of those crimes.
I want to get to an op-ed that you wrote for the Washington Post, in which you're offering some free advice to the new Chief of Staff, John Kelly, for the White House, from your position as former Chief of Staff. Your first tidbit of advice was don't take the job. He's clearly rejected that advice. So now that he's in the job and in the White House, what advice do you have for him?
Yeah, you know, as I said, that had been overtaken by events before I wrote it. But you know, look, I have tremendous respect for General Kelly. He has a very difficult job. I think day one he got rid of Anthony Scaramucci, or at least he got him out of the communications director job. And I think that the reason his job is going to be so tough is that there's a culture in the White House that really is sort of knows no boundaries. And he's got to contend with the president who, even after appointing him, has said that he's not going to stop tweeting. He's going to continue his current practices. So I think he's tried to show some discipline in the White House. Hopefully that'll be successful. We all want the country to succeed. And he has a tremendous record of service. He's also got to reestablish relationships with leaders on both sides of the aisle on Capitol Hill. I think the White House, again, has no credibility. So I think it really is incumbent upon him to personally try, as a man of his word, to establish those relationships. And as I noted in my op-ed, he's got to be the bulwark against interference with this Justice Department investigation. It is clear that no one else there will be, and the president will want to continue to try to interfere in what's going on at the Justice Department. And Kelly has to just be firm in saying, we're not going to do that. That'll get us in more trouble, and really stand up to the president on that one.
And before I let you go, just because you are so close with the Clintons and Hillary Clinton, and you were obviously so involved in her campaign, are you surprised, and is Hillary Clinton surprised at how often the president invokes her name, how often the White House talks about her? We are on Monday, 200 days into the Trump administration, and it seems that not a week goes by where he doesn't mention her.
Yeah, you know, it's unprecedented. You never saw that behavior from any other president who's talking about the person they beat. I think it really just bugs the hell out of him that she got 3 million more votes than he did, and he keeps coming back to that. Obviously, you know, we bear the burden of having lost the Electoral College. So, you know, I lose sleep about that every night. But I think that it's partly strategic to try to deflect attention from his problems. But I think she's really under his skin, because he knows that in the popular vote that she beat him, and beat him soundly.
And what does she say about that?
Well, look, I think she'll have something to say about that when her book comes out in mid-September. And, you know, I think she's reflected on the mistakes that she made and what she might have done different. But I think she'll also talk about where the country is and you know, how to move forward. That's what she's always done in her life, which is when she's gotten knocked down, she's tried to make a positive contribution coming out of that. And I think that that's what this book will attempt to do.